As I've mentioned, stakeholder management is super important in any project that you be involved with. And so let's get into how to manage stakeholders. So stakeholders are individuals, groups, or organizations that may affect or be affected by the activities, the decisions, or the end product of a project. They also indirectly or directly influence a project. Most of the time, and absolutely all of the time, a project sponsor is your stakeholder, is the person that you want to be happy with the outcome of the project. They also influence it, from the decisions, the business case, how it should go. Every part of the project is influenced by a stakeholder. And this could be positive or negative. You want to make sure that you're always on the positive side of it, because they can change the scope, they can change the schedule, they can change the project team, which involves you as well. And so different ways that you can work with them to make sure that you're always in a good place with them is, number one, investing in that relationship. Trust is like very important. You want to be proactive. Being proactive is asking the right questions to be able to determine what the next steps will be. There's nothing like a dumb question. You need to, in a discovery and during the meeting, to get the details for the project charter and the details for the project simple. You have to make sure you're asking the right questions that will get you to the next step. So invest in the relationship. Make sure that you earn their trust at any point in time, and lead with empathy. I think maybe 80% of all the projects that I've worked on had very busy stakeholders, more of like busy sponsors, busy even team members. And so it's very important for you to empathize with them, understand where they are, and meet them there, and try as much as possible to make their jobs easy. If you make their jobs easy, they try to also make your job easier. Solution together. Have calls with them. Bring your ideas. Ask them for their ideas. How have they seen projects that they've worked on similar to yours work in the past? Solution together. Don't just go to them with questions. Bring your ideas. Bring what you've worked on before to them, and get their thoughts on it. As you go ahead. So it's super important. Stakeholders can make or break your project. So it's very critical that you make sure that you're working well with them. Keep them updated. Communicate. Make sure that they know what's happening in the project. They know of any risk that might come up. You want to definitely make sure that they are in the loop on that. So we'll get more into the management of the stakeholders. Identifying them. You first have to find out who the stakeholders are, from the project sponsor. Find out who could be affected in the project or have any kind of influence over its success. This includes like internal stakeholders, such as, of course, the team members, executives, different departments who might use the product or the end outcome, the outcome of the project, as well as external stakeholders like the customers, suppliers, vendors, and anyone in the community who might get to use your end product. So make sure that you're identifying everyone. The other thing that you have to look out for is making sure that nothing falls through the cracks, meaning that you don't take out a stakeholder who should be involved. So make sure that you're covering your bases. Make sure that you're getting everyone who should be a stakeholder. Even if you don't involve them in the beginning, make sure that as you're going along, you keep everyone updated as and when they need to be updated. If you hear of anyone who should be involved in a project, you reach out to them immediately. Give them an update of where you are, what you're working on, and how you might possibly need their assistance in the future or as the project goes along. Analyzing stakeholders. So once you've been able to identify them, assess their level of interest, assess their level of influence, their power um, on each stakeholder. And you can use the stakeholder power interest grid, or they also call it a stakeholder analysis matrix. It's kind of like a power and interest grid. So how much power a person has and how much interest they have, they will be at the top of your stakeholder uh, list because they have power and they have high interest. So you want to make sure that you're keeping them updated. They know what's happening. They're the ones making the decisions and things of that nature. So understand everyone's like perspective, the expectations, the concerns, and the potential impact on the project. So that's very, very crucial for project management. So again, prioritize the stakeholders. Not all of them, of course, are equal. So the higher the level of influence, like I mentioned, the higher they should be prioritized. And then the lower they are, the lower they should be prioritized. So you have to focus on the ones who have the high influence and power and interest as well. So focus your attention, your communication on those people. One of my projects, I was one of my stakeholders was the chief people officer and the chief financial officer, and so I was consistently communicating with them. I sent out weekly status reports to let them know what was happening, and we even had other meetings that they where they received more in depth updates on what was happening with the project. So super duper important on that. Communicate effectively. Communication is key to successful stakeholder management. So you have to tailor your communication style and message to the needs and preference of the stakeholders and of each one. Sometimes you can't do each person if it's a tall list of stakeholders, but at least you should know for the important ones how they would like to communicate. One of the companies that I worked with liked using Slack, which is an instant messaging application, to reach out to stakeholders rather than emails. So I would send emails and I would also send the Slack so that if they didn't catch the email, they would be able to catch the Slack. So it's very important to figure out what's important to them, how they would like you to communicate. And that's a question that you should also find out and ask during the meeting with the sponsor, because the sponsor would have an idea of that. Also be transparent. You have to be honest. If there's a risk, you need to let them know as soon as you find out. And be proactive in that, because you don't want them to find out there's a risk that you knew about when it becomes an issue. That's not a good trait of a project manager or project coordinator. Resolve conflicts. There could be conflicts among stakeholders in any project. I've had that happen several times. And as a project manager, you must act as a mediator to resolve the conflicts. Don't take sides, but find solutions that will be mutually acceptable to both parties. If one person is saying another party is responsible for doing X, Y, or Z, find a way for them to be able to work together to get the end product that you want. The longer there's conflict, the longer you don't get your task completed or your deliverable as and when you need it. So listen to other parties that are involved and see what's really happening and try to facilitate a solution that works for both parties. Monitor and adapt. So continuously monitor stakeholder engagement, see how each or the highly important ones are feeling about the project, and see what their satisfaction is so far. So you need to be gauging that, you need to be monitoring that consistently. Because if one person starts out, one stakeholder starts out being very satisfied with the project, and halfway through is dissatisfied, you need to figure that out and make sure that they become satisfied. So assess whether the calm strategies are not working or if it's effective and if their needs are being met. And all of this happens through communication. So be prepared to change your approach. You might not have the same approach all throughout, and that's fine. That's one of the things that you, or the traits and skills that you have to have as a project management professional. You have to be willing to adapt. You have to be willing to change and move things around, adapt and be flexible. Flexibility is a big skill that you have to have. I hope this helps. If you have any questions, definitely reach out to me or bring them to our weekly coaching calls. I can answer and it'll be helpful to someone else. Are you aspiring to enter the world of project management, but you're feeling lost on where to start? Let me guide you through every step of the journey, from crafting a standout resume and finding the perfect roles to mastering interview techniques and negotiating an ideal salary. I've got you covered on all of that. Plus, I'll be sending you job alerts twice every week. I'll also ensure that your LinkedIn profile shines bright, drawing recruiters to you like a magnet. With my expert guidance, you'll be well equipped to excel in the competitive field of project management. So don't wait. Go to www.pathwaystopm.com/coaching today.